Hey everybody, what's happening? Brent Axe here from syracuse.com. We're live on the Syracuse Orange basketball Facebook page, coming off the heels of a Syracuse win over Wake Forest. Final score in Winston-Salem, 79-54. So the Orange get that much-needed 10th ACC win. They avoid what would be a bad loss in terms of not only just a bad loss period, but in the eyes of the NCAA selection committee, as Wake Forest has a net ranking in the near 200, as a matter of fact. It just wouldn't be good if Syracuse went down to Winston-Salem and stubbed their toe against this Demon Deacons team, but they certainly did not. Not only did they take care of business, they have a pretty easy walk in the park in Winston-Salem in beating Wake Forest by a score, as mentioned, of 79-54. We're here today thanks to our friends at Krause Health. Great to have you here. Getting those comments. Tell me about Syracuse basketball, what you see. A tough one coming on Monday against Virginia. I think a really tough matchup for the Orange. We're speaking live right now. Virginia plays Pitt as we speak. I don't think Virginia should have any trouble with Pittsburgh there, but, you know, anything can happen on any given day in the ACC, as they say. But a tough turnaround for the Orange, getting number 2 Virginia. That's where the Cavs stand right now in the AP Top 25. Big Monday coming up for the Orange at the Carrier Dome. That's a 7 o'clock tip time. We'll be right back with you live here on the Syracuse Orange basketball Facebook page after that game as well. But let's discuss this win over Wake Forest for Syracuse. It was a much-needed, easy game for the Orange. They have played all ranked opponents recently. You go Louisville, who they certainly dropped off from where Syracuse even beat them on a Wednesday night. They lost to Boston College recently and look to be a little bit of a mess right now, but went through that Duke-UNC gauntlet. Syracuse needed an easy game. They needed a confidence builder for players that maybe have not been up to level as of late. Tyus Battle does Tyus Battle things out there. He scores 21 points on the day. He goes 9 of 13 shooting the ball. As you're going to see, Syracuse shot the ball really well in this game. Elijah Hughes scores 18 points, 8 of 12 from the field. Hughes had probably his best all-around game in a Syracuse uniform. He led the team with 7 rebounds. He dished out 3 assists on the day, blocking shots. And what I really liked about Elijah Hughes' game today was he's driving to the hoop. Did not count on that 3-point shot. Wake Forest, frankly, is a poor defensive team. He took advantage of that, drove to the hoop, and we saw what he can do in another capacity. I think we know he can shoot the ball. Just took a couple of 3-pointers today, made 1 on the day, but really good to see him drive to the hoop. O'Shea Brissett, 9 points and 4 rebounds in this game. Pascal Chukwu, same thing, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 3 block shots, took advantage of a weak team in the paint for Wake Forest. You look at one of the key stats in this game, it's points in the paint. Very on-brand number here for Syracuse. 44-10, they outscore Wake Forest points in the paint. Wake turned over the ball a bunch in this game. Just kind of looking at some other stats here. Syracuse had 15 steals. Very impressive defensive performance. They dished out 13 assists on the day. And let's see, points off turnover. Syracuse had 27 points off turnovers today. Wake turned the ball over 23 times. Very young team, very poor Wake Forest team that Syracuse just had to go down and take care of business against, and that they did. Syracuse shot 54% overall. They were 31 of 57 on the day. Didn't shoot well. The one thing, really, you could look at and say they didn't do well in this game was shoot from three-point range. They go 4 of 19 from three-point range. It's 21%. And Syracuse has actually been pretty good shooting the 3, typically on the road, just not today, but certainly it didn't matter with all the points in the paint, 44-10. As we mentioned, Syracuse shot near 70% on 2-point field goals in this game. So all-around dominant effort for the Orange today, and it's one they needed after that UNC-Duke gauntlet. They lost by 10 to Duke. The North Carolina game, as we talked about after that game earlier this week, really poor officiating in the first half, and Syracuse was awful at the free throw line. Meanwhile, North Carolina gets to the free throw line 37 times. They make 34 of those, and, you know, not a bad loss by any stretch because Carolina is a top 5 team, one of the hottest teams in college basketball, but this is just what the doctor ordered for Syracuse. Quick turnaround, but they come back home. They get Virginia on Monday night. They get Clemson after that, and then it's over. The regular season is done, and it becomes one-and-done time for the Orange. The ACC tournament approaches. We're here in March. It's March 2nd, and it's time, baby. We're here. It's March Madness time. You guys ready? And I think this game and this win sealed an NCAA tournament berth for the Orange. It was one of those things Coming into this game, they were not on the bubble. Coming out of this game, they're not on the bubble. But had they lost this game, I think they would have edged their way towards the bubble and would have to make up ground. Now, let's say they lost this game and beat Virginia on Monday. They're off the bubble immediately and clinch a bid. That's how close Syracuse is. That's how weak the bubble is this year. The big thing with that is Syracuse is a team that you get to that 10th ACC win, you're fine. Because the bubble is so weak this year. I don't think Syracuse is going to be that point of controversy. There's always that one team that becomes kind of that point of discussion the Monday after Selection Sunday. And one year it was Syracuse should not have been in, right? Everybody just freaking out because they got into the tournament. 2016, made a Final Four run. In 2017, they were the team that you could argue should have been in and didn't get in, right? Last year, they were literally the last team in. They were the 68th team selected. Remember the video of all the guys going crazy in the room watching the selection show, and they made a Sweet 16 run. So this year, just a nice, safe NCAA tournament bid. They've got a couple more games to round off the edges before postseason play begins, the ACC tournament in Charlotte. Jim Boeheim was talking about that a little bit in his press conference. So very solid day for Syracuse. I don't have a lot of complaints. They did exactly what they needed to do, take care of business. All the big players that needed to play well played well. Nobody really, everybody that got in scored for Syracuse. I didn't mention Frank Howard. He had 6 assists on the day, and the encouraging thing there was they weren't just kind of, easy passes that turned into 3-point shots. He actually made some great passes inside today. Jalen Carey got some minutes late in the game. I mean, when the walk-ons get in an ACC game, you normally don't see the walk-ons, as I like to call them, the human victory cigars. You don't see them in March very often. So, it's that kind of day for Syracuse when they got into the game. All right, let's see what you guys are saying here. Hop in those comments. Tell me what you think at this point. Tom saying that even though they lost to Duke and Carolina, they were in both games up to the end. In my opinion, that could be a good sign. I think it is a good sign because they didn't get their doors blown off by either one of those teams. It's a good sign for Monday. I'll tell you, I don't think Syracuse matches up well with Virginia. You go out, you play, you do your thing. You mentioned how they did against Carolina and Duke. I just don't think they match up well with this Tony Bennett team, with this Virginia team. I think it could be ugly on Monday night. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's one of those things. You lose to the number 2 team in the country, it's not going to hurt you. What you want is you just want a game. You want to see some of the things carry over from today. Obviously, Wake is a lot worse than Virginia, but you want to see good balance on offense. You want to see guys drive in the lane. You want to see good shooting. You want to see good defense. You want to take advantage of points off turnover. Syracuse went 13 of 18 at the free throw line today. That's, better than 13 of 23 that they won against North Carolina Tuesday night. But you need O'Shea Brissett, Elijah Hughes, Tyus Battle, Frank Howard, all to be great. You need Pascal Chukwu to contribute inside. You need Marek Dolezaj to keep doing what he's doing. That's, I've said this a lot lately, but that's just how tough the schedule has been. It's another all-hands-on-deck kind of game if you're going to beat a really, really good Virginia team who's right back on point. I mean, we all know what happened to Virginia last year, right? First number 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed in the tournament since they changed the format in 1985. That's not happening again to Virginia. I mean, this Virginia team, not only are they going to be motivated by that, certainly, this Virginia team actually might be better than that one and will probably be a number 1 seed once again. Mike says, Brent, always look forward to listening to your recap. Thanks for that, Michael. Appreciate you guys checking in from wherever you are today. What I love about doing this, Facebook recap, we kind of show up and, wherever you're on Facebook, all across the country, you can keep up with SU Hoops and what they're doing here. So appreciate you guys hanging, and we've got more to come. We'll be here after every game, Monday night, Clemson game, every ACC tournament game, and as far as the Orange go through the NCAA tournament as well. Anthony says, still like to have a win against Virginia, to be sure. In terms of the NCAA tournament, yeah, you beat Virginia. I mean, it's over. Not only – see, now you're in that conversation of – and it eases the tension – if you're a Syracuse fan, you're not in the conversation as it stands now if they're in or out. Now it's seeding. Are you an 8 seed? Are you a 9 seed? If you're an 8 or 9 seed, of course, and you win, you play the 1 seed. So you got a tough first-round matchup. I saw one projection, by the way, our friend Joe Lenardi from ESPN. His 8-9 matchup in one bracket right now is Washington against Syracuse. I mean, giddy up, because that's the only place you're going to see Washington play Syracuse in the tournament. I don't think Boeheim would schedule Hopkins and vice versa, as much as we'd all love to see it. The only time you'll see these two teams play would be in a tournament setting like that, if they're in like a Maui Classic or a preseason NIT or certainly the NCAA tournament. So Let's hope Lenardi's right about that one if things hold at this point for both of those teams. But that's what Syracuse is looking at right now, about it somewhere between a 7 and a 9 seed. If you beat Virginia, you move up the seed line. And if you could finish strong and beat Clemson and maybe have a strong run, maybe 2 wins in the ACC tournament, Syracuse could even move up to about a 6 seed at this point. But they're hanging right around an 8 or a 9 seed at this point in all the latest projections. Keith's in Freehold, New Jersey. What's up, Keith? My mom's from Toms River. I don't know how close Freehold is to Toms River, but shout out to all our New Jersey viewers out there today. Elaine saying if Syracuse beats Virginia, they should break the top 25. No question about it. The only thing about it is the new poll comes out on Monday. So I don't think Syracuse is going to be in the poll this week, certainly splitting with North Carolina and Wake. They beat Virginia. I agree, but then you got to wait until that next poll comes out the next Monday. But they would absolutely get in the top 25 if they beat Virginia at this point. Yeah, Hop versus Boeheim would be epic. I just need to see that. I need to see that before Boeheim retires, and I've got a sneaky – they won't schedule each other, but I just got a sneaky suspicion that the basketball gods in some way will reward us with that in a tournament setting of some sort. Any clever schedulers out there in terms of, like I mentioned, the Maui Classic? There's a lot of those preseason, not preseason, but pre-conference tournaments that they do, and Syracuse plays in a lot of them. They went to the Battle for Atlantis a couple of years ago, preseason NIT, Maui Classic. Do they still do the Great Alaska Shootout? I don't even know if they still do that. But Boeheim loves playing in those tournaments. He loves the competition. He loves to get early games. And think about that. Let's go back to November. Syracuse lost consecutive games to Connecticut and Oregon. And everybody's like, whoa, what's going on here? But they have certainly come full circle since then. So that'd be nice. That'd be nice if we saw those two match up against each other. Let's see. Andrew saying, I think they may play better the worse their seed. They get too high on the bracket. They may feel some pressure. Playing an underdog usually favors the Orange. It's not only playing an underdog that favors Syracuse. It's, if you get a team that's just not familiar with the zone defense whatsoever, that is always a huge advantage. I think Syracuse really used that to their advantage. Remember, they were in the play-in game last year, so they're playing, Arizona State and TCU, and they're playing them quick turnarounds. Had to win 3 games just to kind of get to where they needed to be in the tournament, and that really gives you an advantage if you're Syracuse. I think, the bracket is one thing. The matchups, if you get a good 3-point shooting team, you can cancel that out, but you just don't know how to prep for that zone unless you have some concept of it. You've seen it throughout the season. It's one of those things you can watch all the film you want. You can prepare for it all you want, but until you see it on the court, it's so hard to comprehend. So that could be a big advantage for Syracuse early on. But that's it. I mean, we sit here and talk. Wow, Joetta's in Ireland. Very appropriate that we've got somebody checking in from Ireland. It is almost St. Patrick's Day after all coming up. Always love St. Patrick's time in Syracuse, so thank you for that. What time is it in Ireland, by the way? It's like 8:30 over there, right? So very cool. Love to hear that. Not only all over the country, all over the world on this show. Worldwide, baby. Keith wants to beat Virginia. I think it's going to be tough. I really do. I think Virginia's they're not a good matchup for Syracuse, but it comes back to what I just said. Really good defense. You got to get turnovers. You got to get Virginia out of their flow. And their defense, that famous Tony Bennett pack line defense, can frustrate the heck out of you. I think Syracuse has to be ready for that. James saying a UVA win would bump Syracuse up to 7, possible 6 seed in the NCAA. Yes, I think. But you'd have to combine that with maybe beating Clemson and, 1 or 2 wins in the ACC tournament. I don't think a win over Virginia alone bumps you up to a 7 or a 6. It could bump you up to an 8, though. I think if Syracuse goes on a run based on that, they'll be a 6 seed. But right now, they're a pretty solid 9, so they'd have to do a lot of work to get a bump up from 6. Go Q's from Vegas. Good cover. Was a good cover for entertainment purposes only, right? Although, pretty soon in New York State, it will not be for entertainment purposes only anymore. Hope things are great in Vegas. Dave, as you know, I've always wanted to do this. One of these years I'm going to do it. I've always wanted to go to Vegas for the NCAA tournament, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Just one of the wildest times to be in Vegas. I got to do that once in my life just to see what that's like. Brian saying couldn't miss the post game, even went away in Florida on vacation. What are you doing, Brian? Go to the beach. Stop watching this show. But we appreciate that, man. That's great. Josh saying 3 straight losses, and it's a nervous selection Sunday again. I don't think so. I think they're in. You don't want that to be the case because that'd be 10-9 in ACC play, and you don't want the selection committee to be like, well, let's take another look at that resume there. I think they're in the tournament. The bubble is so weak this year. Don't give the tournament any reason to give you a second look, to doubt you. But remember, it's a collective thing. It's 4 months. It is how you did in conference play, net ranking. Syracuse is a very strong net ranking. By the way, plug for Donna DeToda, my great colleague at syracuse.com. She has a really good article coming out, I think on Monday, but if not, certainly next week, about the net ranking and really explaining what it means, because we're all kind of trying to figure out how important it is and what it is. We know about the quad system now, and Syracuse, by winning this game, avoids a quad 3 loss. Quad 3 wins don't really do anything for you, but you don't want to pile up quad 3 losses. So Donna's got that piece coming out next week as well. And I will say this, I'm not going to tell you too much here, but not this upcoming Monday, but Monday, March 11th. Okay, there is a Syracuse basketball-related project that I've been working on that I think you guys are really going to enjoy that comes out that day. And that's all I'm going to say. A little tease. Look, be on the lookout for it. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it, though. Brian saying 80 degrees where he is. Glad I didn't have to sweat in the second half. No, natural sweat just from the Florida sun there. Greg saying Chukwu looked very comfortable today in a great team game. You know where I'm at, Greg, with Chukwu is look, if he continues to build on this, great. Wake's not a very good defensive team. They don't really have anybody in the paint. So you want him to go out there and take advantage of that, right? And he had 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 blocks on the day. I'm in the gravy mode with Chukwu. He's so inconsistent that whatever he contributes to the box score is just kind of gravy to me. You want him to have that presence defensively, get good minutes. When he does foul, make him good fouls. And it's the block shots. It's the defensive presence that is really key at this point. But I want to see him build on this against better teams. But he's going to play. He's going to have a presence. And, there's a guy right there you're going to need to, be successful defensively to beat Virginia on Monday night. So I'm really curious to see how Syracuse handles that pack line defense, because it's really tough to drive in the paint against. They're aggressive. Syracuse has not done well against aggressive on-ball defending teams so far this season. But if they can have another good showing, national TV, big Monday again, 7 o'clock tip time. How about that, by the way? Nice, reasonable time to watch a Syracuse basketball game today. All these 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock starts this year. Uncle Brent really liked the noon start today. 7 o'clock on Monday. I'm liking that. I need my beauty sleep, as I'm sure you guys do too, right? Let's see. Ann say, nice win, boys. Keep the mojo going. James asks, what are your thoughts on SU's lack of ACC tournament success? Just one win since joining the conference. Yeah, that's a weird thing because it's been so long, James. You would think that, once you kind of got into I think a lot of it, honestly, is with Madison Square Garden in New York, it's close by. There's just a rhythm to it, and there was a confidence to it. And you had a lot of fan support. The ACC tournament, it's so random. It's Greensboro, it's Charlotte, even in Brooklyn. When it was there, certainly there was a lot of fan support there, but it's just different. It's just not that same electric feeling, and I think that affects that team. And they've gone into the ACC tournament the past couple of years needing some wins, really needing to pick up some wins to shore up their NCAA tournament, resume. I think part of it is sometimes you run into a team that had already played and they've kind of built up some confidence and some momentum, but I don't have a good explanation for you. They should have more than one win in the ACC tournament, so we'll see how they do this year. Charlotte is the spot so far. Tom mentioning the losses against UConn and Oregon might not hurt us as bad since Frank Howard didn't play in those 2 games. The Old Dominion loss is more concerning. Yeah, that's a bad look in terms of your resume. Losing to Buffalo doesn't hurt so much because that's a good team. That's a tournament team. Old Dominion, I think, might be a tournament team as well. But, yeah, Buffalo and UConn UConn and Oregon were so early in the season, and you didn't have Frank Howard. They do take that into account. They look to see were there any big injuries on that team, and there certainly was for Syracuse at that point. All right, what do you say we end it right there, guys? Really appreciate you coming by, as always. We'll be right back here Monday night after Syracuse takes on Virginia. Please look out for my recap. It usually comes out, so it's 2:30 as we speak here on Saturday afternoon. I don't know, it might be up tonight. Sometimes with these early noon games, we do put it up earlier, because usually it comes out the next day. With all the night games, it just kind of comes out the next day. But it may be up tonight, more likely tomorrow morning. But Mike Waters and Donna DeToda and Dennis Nett have all the great coverage from Winston-Salem. That's hitting the site as we speak. So please check that out. And I'll tell you what, we'll come right back here Monday, do this whole darn thing all over again. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll be right back here on Facebook Live after the Orange take on Virginia Monday night.